Welcome to Alt-A, Decision Structures, a second video in a series introducing Python programming as a means to learn mathematics and science. Last video, we talked about variables, including numeric variables such as integers and floating point variables, text variables, and Boolean variables. We explored input and output operations and made some simple computer programs that allowed users to input and then output particular answers based on the input. Further, we started into operators and spoke about the assignment operator, such as x equals 5, and then I talked about a few other special operators which modify values of variables through addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So this time we will be talking about comparison operators and decision structures. So for the purpose of this little program, we will declare two variables at the beginning. One, a text variable, name is equal to Ted, and two, a integer variable, x equals 5, using the assignment operator. So now, once we have the values of our variables, we can ask questions about them. And for this, we use comparison operators. In computer programs, we frequently need to ask whether a certain variable has a certain value. And so here are two statements. X is equal to 5, with a doubles equal signs, and a doubled equal sign, that is. And x is equal to 6. So the first one is true because x is equal to 5. The second one returns false because after all, x is 5, not 6. So this is the basic comparison operator. It asks the question, is the left side equal to the right side? And if it is, it returns a condition true, and otherwise it returns the condition false. So this is used in making decisions, and we'll see this later in the video. There are other common mathematical comparison operators seen often in mathematics classes. These are equally important and useful in computer programming. For example, we can ask whether x is greater than 5. In this case, it's false because x is equal to 5. Is x smaller than or less than 6? Yes, indeed it is. So this returns true. Is x greater than or equal to 2? Yes, it is. So this is true. But x is not smaller than or equal to 0, and therefore this is false. Finally, x is not equal to 10, and so this one returns true. So here are several comparison operators. In addition to the basic comparison operator for equals, we have the greater than, less than, and so on, and the not operator. Moving along, we sometimes need to make two or more comparisons in a statement, and for this we may use the logical operators, also known as the Boolean operators. So here we have two conditions being tested, and this is 5 greater than 3? Evidently it is. And is x less than 10? Currently, in this program it is, because x was set to 5 earlier on. So this statement will return true because both of the comparisons return true. The second one here has an or statement connecting both comparisons, and either or may be true in order for the entire statement to be true. So is 5 less than 3? That is false. However, since x is less than 10, we still get a return of true on this statement. Final of these three examples, not is the opposite of the return of the given statement. So since 5 is greater than 3 is true, that means that not 5 greater than 3 is false. So this leads us now to making decisions in Python with the comparison operators. We may ask the question using an if statement, and this is common in many computer languages. The if statement is used for making decisions. So we must first note here, in this series of videos, we will see a number of structures that have a very similar set of characteristics. The first of these is the if statement. At the end of an if statement, we will see a colon. That's after we ask if and some logical expression. The very next line or series of lines must be tabbed over using the tab key or spaces. These are the statements that will execute if the statement is true. Otherwise, they will not execute. So we'll see this down here in our first example. If name is equal to Ted, well, at the beginning of the program, we see that we did indeed set Ted as the name. So that is true. So it's going to print here the name is Ted. And then secondly, if x is equal to 5, that's also true. So these two statements will now execute if x is indeed 5, which it is at the moment. The final statement here will execute regardless because it is at the same level of indentation. It's not subject to either of these if statements. It's going to execute no matter what we set the variable of x to. So we'll see now here the output will be seen in this little window, and we'll run the program. We should expect both sets of statements here to execute and then the final print statement. And here we are. The name is Ted. X is 5. The lines that are tabbed are printed if the if statement is true. And then finally, the final print statement. So in order to change the execution of this program, we can go back to the beginning and set x equal to 6 and name equal to Sue. Now, neither of the if statements will execute their code. Only the final print statement will be output. So there's the final print statement. The other ones are ignored because they are not true now, the two comparisons. So this is a little introduction to decision structures. Now we will look at some more details that come along with decision structures, such as what happens if not, or if there are multiple possibilities to be considered. So the program has been slightly modified based on the previous code. Both decision structures have now been expanded. So here we see, at first we simply asked whether the name was Ted, and there was one possibility, and it was either executed or not. Now, no matter what happens, there will be some output. If the name is Ted, it will say the name is Ted. Otherwise, it will say the name is not Ted, because now we have an else statement. So the else provides an alternative if the condition is not true. It has the same structure as the if statement in that at the end of the else statement we have a colon, and anything that we would like to execute after the else statement must be tabbed over, just like with the if statement. So we will see the execution of these statements in a moment. And now we have a compound if statement with three possibilities, linked together with the elif statement, a short form of else if. So now, if x is equal to 5, it will print x equals 5, or x is 5. Elif x is equal to 6, it will print x is 6. Finally, for all other possibilities for the value of x, it will print x is neither 5 nor 6. So we may set the values of Ted for the name and 5 for x, execute the program, the name is Ted and X is 5. So now we can put X is 6, and the name is not going to be Ted now. The name is not Ted, and X is 6. And finally, what if X were to be 7? Then we get the third answer. X is neither 5 nor 6. And so there is our code executing with compound if statements using the keywords else and elif. In our next video, we will consider loops, ways of achieving multiple tasks with a few statements. Loops repeat a certain number of times or until a condition is met and allow us to do many things with a few lines of code.